The United States Supreme Court just ruled in favor of President Trump, saying that he did have immunity on certain things that he did during his presidency.
Court has finally released its ruling on this long awaited case, saying that Trump has immunity from official acts. In several cases, they cite what official acts may be, but they also leave a number of others open for lower courts to make a final determination on. We're going to be talking a lot about the legal implications of all this. I want to first bring in CNN's Van Jones and Scott Jennings. Van, as you look at this, what stands out to you?
Well, it's a very concerning outcome. You know, there's a maxim that says in law, bad facts create bad law. So when you have somebody doing stuff that's so terrible, the stuff that Trump did in office, it creates these bad facts. The court has to come in and figure out what to do about it. It often creates bad law. Basically, the question is, Supreme Court, do you more care about the unlawful conduct of a sitting president or possibly the unfair prosecution of a former president?
Yeah, look, I think there's some amount of overreaction here. I mean, after all, they did kick it back down to the lower court, so some decisions could be made about differentiating between official and private acts. But look, this court has stood up for the office of the presidency and the executive power of the presidency in a way that, you know, may be of some benefit to future presidents. I mean, we're looking at this through the lens of Donald Trump, but, you know, the President of the United States has a lot of power for a reason.
I'm Dennis the Mennis. This is the Mr. Wilson's Got a Headache podcast. I remember when I first heard about this case, the first thing I remember thinking is my middle school social studies class, when I remember on a test, they asked us if the president had immunity. Now, of course, I'm not a lawyer, so I wasn't really sure, but it crossed my mind. You know, one of those things where you're like, yeah, I think that's true. I remember learning that when I was in middle school or sometime when I was in school.
It does find this. Under our constitutional structure of separated powers, the nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. He is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. That's the first blush we've got on this. It looks like a 6-3 split. We've got the dissent by Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson join that. There is a kind of split decision on some of these. Somebody joins in one part, not in another part, but that's the overall holding of the court. So what it means now, we'll have to dig into this and see if they tell us now, how do you decide an official act versus an unofficial act? Because that's going to be critical, having now said the president does have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. We'll dig in, see how they define those official acts, and look for a little bit more from you from the opinion. But at first blush, this looks like it is going to be a win for the argument for presidential immunity when it comes to allegations of criminal activity.
As I sit here today after this ruling, I'm trying to figure out what all these legal experts with the Democratic Party were trying to accomplish. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and I remember that the president has immunity. If you're watching this video and you're old enough, you remember President Bush starting the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan over WMDs. There were no WMDs. Hundreds of thousands of people died. He was never tried. There were people trying to get him tried, but he had immunity. I want to say this again. On this podcast, I don't push either Democrat or Republican, Green Party, independent ideas. I try to stay neutral and deal with the facts. But at this point, I don't quite know what's going on with the Democratic Party. I can imagine that some of you right now is like, why don't you know? Because we don't know exactly. We can assume. The one thing we can say for sure is that something is going on and something needs to change. After President Biden's horrible debate, this only makes them look worse. Keep in mind that you have far right-leaning Republicans and you have far left-leaning Democrats. But most of the country is in the middle, or what you would call moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats, people who actually see eye to eye on things that both parties do. In my opinion, this is the voting block that the Democrats are going to lose, as well as losing so many votes from African American men. I think this is going to leave a bad taste in most people's mouth about the Democratic Party, not just for this upcoming election that I think President Trump is going to win, but in future elections, unless they make a diametric shift. A little bit more about what the Supreme Court said. They said that certain things he may not have immunity on. They're going to let lower courts figure that out. But any of us who've ever been to court for a speeding ticket and maybe you couldn't get a lawyer from the beginning know that you can do continuance after continuance after continuance. So more than likely, this case won't be resolved for a very long time. And if the resolution comes when President Trump is the president, well, he can pardon himself. I'm 39 years old. I've seen many elections. I've been through many political seasons. This one is the most awkward. This one is the most stressed. This one has embarrassed our country in the world stage. I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready for this to be over. And as always, I tell people, listen, I want to know what you think about it. Go to the comment section. Let me know. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Put it in the comments. I'm going to check these comments. I want to hear what you have to say. I believe in listening to people and their different opinions. I want to know what you think. Put it in the comment section. Let's talk about it. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next video.